in the shoot for Southern Miss. Tavares, baseline. Hey, and there's a jam by Tavares. Here's Hart from the corner. Izzy Hart, the senior out of Midwest City, Oklahoma. There's Brumfield, gets it up to Tavares. It's a 3-on-2 situation. Tavares split the defenders, took it right at the rim with the slam.
Hey, Golden Eagle fans, I'm Southern Miss Stadium announcer Jackson Walker, and you're listening to Nasty Bunch and Beyond.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Nasty Bunch and Beyond. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Drew Johnson. I have a very special guest today. It's the Southern Miss men's head coach, Jay Ladner. Jay, we appreciate you joining us.
And Drew, thank y'all for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. I know you got a lot going on, and the season is just now getting underway, but we appreciate you taking the time. So just want to start off here. You know, your team off to a 2-3 start. Undefeated at home here at Reed Green Coliseum. On the road, you've had some heartbreaking losses, but you've been in every one of them. So, you know, with that being said, what have you liked from your team so far, from what you've seen at home and on the road, and what does this team have to do to start winning on the road?
Amen. Well, first of all, you know, we feel like very disappointed that we're not 5-0. I mean, you know, we've lost by 6, 5, and 4. And or 6, 4, and 5, I should say, and one of those being overtime. 2 of the games we had, you know, a double-digit lead at some point during the game at Buffalo, who heading into, I believe, their games last night were still undefeated. South Carolina, of course, are still undefeated. Those would have been 2 huge wins for our program, and we played well enough to win. We've got to figure out how to win, and I take full responsibility, of course. Like I said, very disappointed. Players are disappointed, and then the Grambling was a tough loss. Grambling's got probably a lot better team than people realize. So of course disappointed, and I don't think we're far away. But you know, we're a process-oriented team, and meaning that I feel like that by concentrating on the process and about doing your best every day, about continuing to eliminate the things that cause losing. You continue to improve, and we're happy to be 2-0 at home, but disappointed to be 0-3 on the road. No matter you know, at Southern Miss, one thing I love about Southern Miss is in our tradition, not just basketball, in our tradition. You know, we're not about moral victories at Southern Miss, and people, and I know this just, of course, as during my time of being involved, especially in Division I, the respect that people have for the Southern Miss brand and Southern Miss name nationally, it came through us winning and winning games, as Dr. Paul, our president, says about, you know, punching above our weight. So yeah, it's tough to go win on the road. It's tough to go to South Carolina and beat an SEC team. But when you're up 11 with 3 minutes and 50 seconds left, you got to win that game. And you don't let it get to the point where there may or may not be a foul call. And there's a lot of people, you know, that wanted to emphasize the last 3.5 minutes. The kid hits like those big time 3-pointers.
Meechie Johnson.
Yeah, all SEC guard. But hey, give him credit. But really, you know, we also got off to a little bit of a slow start and let them build a double-digit lead. To me, those were just important. And I want our players to understand that every single possession is critical, not just what happens in the game. And too often fans and maybe even sometimes coaches will have a tendency to look at what happened to them. Yes, those are important, but they're no more important than that. Those first few possessions either. They're all the same thing. So I want us to mature to the point that we are that. So anyway, you ask also about what I like about our team. One thing I like about our team is our attitude. They're fun to work with every day. Of course, we're just getting practice ahead of doing this podcast. And you know, getting ready for our tournament that we have coming up this weekend, and but their attitude and their work ethic every day has been a lot of fun. So we've got a long way to go. We got a lot of new guys that are new to each other, new to the coaching staff. 14 new faces on the team. But again, I've seen great improvement from our first exhibition game through our 5 regular season games. So that's what I like about our team. I like our depth. I like our depth of our team. You know, I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, Dalton, that we have. We haven't quite narrowed it down, trimmed the fat, so to speak, to a playing rotation. So that's good in the sense that there's not a lot of separation between our first and 18th player, to be honest with you, and it's bad in the sense that we haven't been able to do that. But every day somebody doing something different, you know, and so
when you and I mean, just from us, because we've covered NBA basketball, and I know NBA and college ball are different, but Drew and I have covered the Dallas Mavericks for years, last probably 6-7 years now. Mm-hmm. And what we've learned, and it may apply to college ball or not, but once you do start trimming the rotation down a little bit, it helps guys, build chemistry faster and get more of a rhythm. Does that apply to college ball too?
I think 100%, and I think we're eventually going to have to get to that point. And of course, they talk to our players about we need somebody to step forward and say, "Hey, this is my job." And we even as y'all probably saw, juggled our starting lineup a little bit the other night, and I liked what I saw. But by the same token, the very next day in practice, we have another guy doing better. It's been a little bit difficult, but we've got to get it. But as we get closer and closer to league play, which will be not too far away, as we get closer and closer to league play, we're going to have to get that thing narrowed down a little bit.
Drew?
So you came to Southern Miss as a former player and a Hattiesburg native, and then you built your coaching resume at the high school, junior college levels, as well as at Southeastern Louisiana before returning. How has this full circle journey kind of impacted your identity, coach of your alma mater?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's when you grow up here in Hattiesburg, I always say the honor of playing. I played for Coach Turk, and legendary coach here, and I always say I was a bad player on some really good teams, and I had the opportunity, to kind of step back a little bit. When I talk to our present day players about, and I probably do it too much just because I'm nostalgic, but and I talked to them, I said, the league that we played in, we played home and home with Memphis, and that's when Memphis was really Memphis State, of course, but playing for national championships, top 10 program, Louisville, top 10 program, Virginia Tech, with South Carolina, Cincinnati, Florida State. It was just, and they have a hard time understanding that's the way it was. And then I tell them, I said, and to get into Reed Green, that the students would camp outside for days to get tickets to these games. They can't really understand that. And I get it. I'm old, I'm an old man, and that was a long time ago. But man, I went to school at a good time here. And, football was great. And, it came on the heels of the Reggie Collier Nasty Bunch, of course, owed to y'all's podcast name those days, and then the Brett Favre, you right into Brett Favre, and our baseball program was just getting rolling nationally with Coach Denson. I mean, it was just an awesome time to go to school here, and there's some good and there's some bad from growing up here for somebody to come in as a head coach. Now everybody knows you. And so, and there's some bad to that too, because I get a lot of texts after the game. Oh, what's wrong with the team? And, of course, the natural negativity that some people have, but that's okay. I mean, I understand that comes with the program. And let me tell you something, there's nobody that takes a loss harder than me, because it actually means something to me. And because I've been there, done it with these players, bleed black and gold. And it's a sickening feeling every time that we're not successful, because I really feel like that when that happens, I'm personally letting down a lot of people that were supportive of me coming here, a lot of people that have continued to support while we've been here and that have stuck with us. And but I do like where we're headed. I like the trajectory of our program. I like the new coaching staff that we have. I love our new influx of players. But there's definitely some good and bad, Drew, to being a hometown player, because to a lot of people, I'm just Jay. I'm not Coach Ladner. I'm Jay. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to call Jay. And it could be that they saw one of our players walk across Hardy Street, not wait on the light. Coach, I saw one of your players. So you get that too because of the familiarity. But that all comes part of it. But at the end of the day, I'm blessed and honored to be here. I love it. Of course, and again, we're nobody's working harder, I can promise you, than myself and our staff, and to getting us heading back in the right direction.
Well, and look, the flip side of that, having the downside to it, everybody knows you and that added pressure and everything. The flip side of that is when you do win, it's that much more awesome.
Amen.
That
Amen.
banner that's sitting up there right now from a few years ago, the 25-8 season,
Yep.
and winning the regular season conference championship, stuff like makes it all the more worthwhile.
Amen. So. Amen, Dalton. And I appreciate you pointing that out. And I feel the same way. It is. There's a lower low when you don't win, and I take every one of them personally, but there's a higher high too, because it's your team. This is your team. I mean, and when the time comes that I'm not Coach Ladner anymore, whatever that time is, I'm still going to be pulling for something. You know what I'm saying? They're still my team, and I'm still going to live and die with a football team. I mean, I was crushed last weekend. I wanted us to win so bad, and of course, when our baseball team's doing all the great things that we do, I'm right there and watching and listening to every game, and have been since I was just a little boy.
Well, that's how we are too. Whatever the ups and downs, we're always here. You want to see the school succeed. Drew, I'm gonna just roll into talking about some of the transfers.
Yeah.
And you can ask him about the the transfer portal stuff versus bringing in freshmen, all that.
Sure.
But, talking about transfers, you had one big one in the off season. EJ Payment. He was the number 1 recruit in the state, 2024. Came over from Mississippi State after redshirting their first year. Got his first start the other night. Looked pretty dang good. What have you liked from him so far, specifically, and in the starting lineup? And then what do you think of the ceiling?
Yeah,
he's still really young.
He is. He's the youngest player on our team. Of course, came from a great high school program at Raymond. Played for Tony Tadlock, one of the great coaches in our state. Great high school program. And again, I have to remind myself that he's one of the younger guys. And I'm gonna get off track for just a second. He was the Mississippi Player of the Year. Of course, he signed with Mississippi State. He was at Mississippi State as a freshman. But here's the deal now. With guys go, and particularly they go to right out of high school, they go to a Power 5. If they're not starting, and of course Mississippi State last year had a very heavy laden veteran team, particularly at his position.
Yep.
He didn't get a lot of practice time. He didn't, and so it's almost like him starting over. That's no affront to Mississippi State. I'm not criticizing them. That's just the way it was, and he'll tell you that he didn't get a lot of practice time. So as he has transferred, and we're so glad he did, he transferred to USM from state. He's just kind of, I've had to remind myself, he's not a player that has gone to the SEC and gotten minutes maybe as their 8th or 9th guy. Here's a guy that's coming that did not get in the game. So he's really like still coming out of high school. But he's got an incredible, first of all, he's a great young man. He comes from a great high school program. He comes from a great family. And again, you talk about somebody that's enjoyable to be around every day. He's got a smile on the face. He's been raised right. But he's got a great upside as a player. He, like any other almost true freshman, a guy that hasn't played basketball. And if you rewind back, he hadn't played basketball until this year, and for about a year and a half. He hadn't, since they won the state championship his senior year. He had not been in a real basketball game until we started, of course, this season. And so, but normal freshman transition, the speed of things, the demand every day at practice, the demand in the weight room, the demand in skill development, the demand in academics, and it's all a major transition for him. And so, but each day he's gotten a little better and a little better and a little better, and to the point that he deserved after our evaluation. I thought, even though he did not play heavy minutes at Grambling, I thought that he played pretty well. He blocked shots. He was scoring around the rim. He gave us a dynamic that we had kind of been missing in there. And so as he had improved his defense, his command of our offense, all those things, he'd finally gotten a point. So, it's time to give him a chance in there. Let's see what he can do. And I thought he handled himself pretty well. I think he ended up with 9 points. And the first time he's played a significant number of minutes. So we're really pleased with his progress.
So, obviously recruiting has completely changed with the introduction of the transfer portal. And as a result, coaches aren't really targeting high school seniors as much as they are players who are ready to play now.
That's right.
Would you say that the transfer portal has impacted your relationships with high school coaches as well as like your high school
Yes.
pipeline?
Yes, it has. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, y'all want to do about 10 of these segments where we talk about the transfer portal and what it's done to not just men basketball, right?
College athletics
college
in general,
athletics, and you know, I can get off on my soapbox about this for a long time. I'm
Reach, coach.
I'm an old school guy, and I believe, and you know, our real job as coaches is to help raise young men, and that, you know, but the NCAA has made that part of coaching very difficult, and it's now become contractual. And hey, you know, we're having to basically, it's professional. It is it's not basically, it is professional sports. And so we can kind of get off, like you said, preach. I could start some preaching. I don't know whether people would listen, but
I will.
Yeah. Anyway, and like I said, maybe we can come back and do a full segment on, and maybe even more, because it would take some time. But it certainly changed things, and I've of course in it before it got here, and I personally, my personal feelings aside, I'm not a fan of it. I don't know any coaches that really are.
Yeah.
I believe in my players. I want to have a personal relationship with our players. And when you're frankly going to have them for about 9 months and you realize that they're going to move on. But here's the deal. We've better embrace it, okay, because that's the world we're living in. And what I mean by this, we are constantly now preaching, even in the recruiting process, about increasing value. And we tell each one of our players, we want you next spring that you have to come in my office. Of course, I've got a couch in my office. Sit on this couch and let's talk about what your future is. I hope that you can go from Southern Miss to a Power 5 school and you go make you $1 million. Yeah. If you've done that, then and the best way to increase value is to win. And we use examples of players that have been in losing programs, maybe that have scored a lot of points, and they don't even get recruited anywhere to go to the next step as far as transferring, as opposed to players that are coming from highly successful programs with you know, medium type numbers. And so that's the number one way you can to increase your value, is to play on a winning team. And then secondly, of course, that you've improved. And we put a tremendous amount of effort into player and skill development, daily, off season, in season, so forth. So we want them to improve to the point and have impacted individually, and then improve to the point where they have impacted winning. And we've had a great season, and they can leave here and go somewhere that can pay them $500,000. I mean, can you imagine we're even talking about that? I know y'all two are probably independently wealthy, and of course I'm not. I mean, I'm just an old high school basketball coach, you know. But yes, I mean, it's unbelievable what some of the schools are paying these guys, and so if they can do that, and I think a lot of them embrace that and go, you know what, man, Southern Miss they're all about me trying to be better. And they seem to buy into that in the recruiting, and we mean it. And because so that's what we understand that for the most part, we're going to have them for a very short period of time. We're going to pour everything that we have into them during that short period of time. And we hope that our goal was to increase value in those guys. And that, so next spring, that we've had such a great year. We've won the Sun Belt Conference. We've gone the NCAA tournament, that we've got guys that goes, hey, here's a big check. Then I'm going to be happy. They're going to be happy. And then at the end, we also use the example of Austin Crowley from a couple of years ago that transferred here from Ole Miss. Austin held off a lot of people. He wasn't even in the transfer portal. Of course, they were recruiting the heck out of him. Of course, I was getting details every day of who was recruiting him, you know, even though he wasn't in the transfer portal, which we don't turn schools in that because there's so much of it going on back there, it wouldn't do any good. But, you know, Austin said, no, they gave me an opportunity here. I averaged 4 points a game at Ole Miss. I averaged 14. I'm all league here. And of course, he's having a great career overseas. So I'll use that example too, that also said, I like it, what we're doing here. And I know they can't pay me as much as I would make at this school, but in the future, I'm going to do a lot better because I stay at Southern Miss. So we love that opportunity as well.
Right. Well, and I'm glad you mentioned Crowley, because, you know, Isaac Tavares, I feel like he's kind of following in the same footsteps as him. You know, he seems like he's got a lot of pop to him. He's got, I don't know what level professionally he'll end up playing at, but it seems like he could, you know, get to that point and have a good professional career. I'd love to see him finish out his career.
Same here. And, you know, they'll have to ask themselves, all right, do I want to leave a legacy somewhere, or do I just want to kind of bounce to this school or that school and leave no legacy? To me, having your name remembered somewhere because you were such a great player is priceless.
Yep.
It's priceless. And, you know, so many people are in these guys' ear these days, and not just family, but outside people, many unqualified people that tell them the wrong things, give them wrong advice. And unfortunately, some of them listen to that kind of stuff. I kind of go back on my own experience. Of course, I'm fortunate, and I'm certain y'all maybe are too. I don't know your home backgrounds. I know, of course, Dalton, yours a little better. But, you know, I had a dad at home. I can imagine me as a player being told by somebody outside my family what I was going to do or needed to do. I mean, that just wasn't going to happen in my house, you know. But there are a lot of people out there that are unqualified that are giving advice, and most of the time bad advice, to players concerning leaving or where they should go. They're steps in this thing now, you know. And so you got to take a player, and he needs to understand a step. A player, y'all mentioned EJ Payne. EJ as an example. He was Gatorade Player of the Year, great talent. He goes to Mississippi State and sits for a year and basically wastes a year of his career and development. And again, nothing against Mississippi State. He just went a little bit too much for a true freshman, right?
Yep.
And that's just the reality that plays itself over and over. So we understand where we are, and not that we would. Of course, you can look at our schedule. You know, we don't shy away from anybody. We're anyone, anywhere, anytime, right? But you if you miss a step in that thing, it can be costly in a lot and millions of dollars later on in your career if you don't play this thing right. And that's why you have to have people around you, and you have to, as a player, you have to trust those people that truly are looking out for your best interest.
And you mentioned the schedule. You know, you got some tough ones coming up. You know, you're going to be playing Ole Miss and Biloxi. You're playing at LSU this year. I mean, there's you're going to be playing Miami. Is Miami in that tournament coming up?
No, they're not in the tournament. They're not in the tournament, but we go there the next week.
That's right.
Okay,
and we go to Radford. You know,
Yep.
Radford
they're solid.
Very, very good team. People down here may not realize how good a program that they have.
So it's going to be tough, and obviously you're still tweaking with the rotations and everything. But, you know, the biggest thing is getting all that worked out before conference play, and then hoping that, you know, you guys can peak at the right time, as I like to say.
That's
so
right.
I know it's a process, but we're getting there. And I mean, there's good that you can take from, even though the team's, like you said, 2-3 and has some tough road losses. I think there's a lot of good stuff to take away from it, and you know, we'll see how the rest of this season goes. But Coach, we appreciate you joining us.
I appreciate y'all having me on, and I hope y'all have me on in the future.
Oh yeah. We may have to do like a monthly check-in with you, but
yeah, y'all just let me know when y'all need me on there. It's really good to see both of you. I appreciate what y'all are doing too for Southern Miss Athletics. Anytime we get good promotion for the program and of course for the school, and listen, y'all don't have to softball me questions or anything like that. I mean, I hope people, I know people that know me know that we're going to shoot straight, and
that's right.
We're going to call it like it is, and good or bad, even for our program. And our guys, I will say this to our fans, and I know a lot of people listen to this podcast. Our guys are working really hard. They want to win. Could easily be 5-0 as we sit here. I mean, just easily 5-0. A little more maturity, a little better. Maybe start with this. A little better coaching. We could be 5-0, and they know that, and they're playing with a lot of confidence right now. Do we have a lot of areas we got to get better in? Absolutely, but our guys are getting better every day, and we've made incredible progress from that exhibition game against Houston Christian to where we are now. I'd love to play Houston Christian again. Of course, I know that was just an exhibition game, and we were still 0-0 after. But I'd love to play them again. And and I'm not saying that in any type of braggadocious way of being arrogant, but I think, you know, we're just not even the same team. But we got to continue to do that as we get ready for league play here in a couple of weeks.
That's right. Well, Coach, we appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
And we'll check in with you. Probably we'll give it about a month and do a check-in toward the end of the year and just see where things are at, and we'll try and do this again. But, guys, we appreciate y'all joining us for another episode of Nasty Bunch and Beyond. If you want to go and get you some Southern Miss merch, this episode is brought to you by To The Top Merch. You can go to tothetopmerch.shopify.com and use the promo code NastyBunchPod to get 20% off your entire purchase. So be sure to do that. But guys, we appreciate it. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.